Hello there, my name is Mark Bowyer and welcome to this little series of Vietnamese language classes by Rusty Compass. Our purpose is not to teach you fluent Vietnamese, but it'd be nice to think that at the end of this little series you'll come away with two things. First of all, a basic vocabulary that will help you in your travels, but probably more important than helping you in your travels, this vocabulary will help you to reach out to people. Vietnamese are really responsive. They respond really well to foreigners who make the effort to learn a few words, so it can really add a lot to the travel experience here. It's also worth noting that you can survive very well in Vietnam just on English. The second objective of this little series is to give you some insights into the language that will help you to understand Vietnam better. The Vietnamese language has a whole lot of little secrets that reveal a lot about the culture and the history, so we're going to look at some of that stuff as well. Before I launch into this series, I should say that I'm not qualified in any way to teach Vietnamese. I've never really formally studied the language myself. I have a reasonable competency in the language, but I wouldn't describe it as fluent. But I have had lots of fun with the language over many years, and I'll try not to lead you astray. So let's get started. So one way to give you an idea of how complex this language is for the foreigner is to simply pick two letters, B-O, and run some of the words that those two, some of the meanings those two letters can have in Vietnamese. And it'll also show you some of the tonality in action as well. So B-O can be ba, which is beef, thịt ba, which is beef, and you may know that word from phở ba, which is the noodle soup with beef that you may have tried before you even travel to Vietnam. Bo can also be bo, which means father. It can also be bo, which means lover. Those two obviously very dangerous if confused. It also means ba, which means throw something away, ba đi. It also means bo, which is ministry. And there are many other meanings. So it also means bơ, which is butter or avocado, depending on the context. So that gives you a sense of the complexity of the tones. You've seen there are slight variations. We've gone from a to o to The letter O can be pronounced three different ways. And it can then go up, it can go down, it can go around, and so on. And we'll explore that in more detail in future classes. But I just thought before you begin this adventure, I should give you some buyer beware notice that this is a complicated undertaking. Okay, so that's some of the complexity behind it. We'll try and make this part of the We'll try and make this part of the lesson a little simpler by just focusing on some essential words that will help you to reach out when you're traveling in Vietnam. The obvious starting point is a greeting, and the Vietnamese greeting is a pretty straightforward one. Xin chào. Xin chào, and that means hi, hello. Xin chào or chào. You can say xin chào or chào. Next part gets a little bit more complicated because you need to address someone when you say xin chào. So if you're addressing, and this is where one of the first really important areas of complexity comes in. The language is relational, so everybody has to be addressed differently depending on their age. If a person is older than you address them one way. If they're younger than you address them another way. If they're a fair bit older than you address them another way. You address them another way. If they're a lot older than you address them another way. And of course it changes for gender. So this gets pretty complex. So let's run through some examples there. If you're addressing a man of similar age or a little bit older, you're going to go Xin chào anh. Xin chào anh. If you're addressing a woman of similar age or a little bit older than you will say Xin chào chị. Xin chào chị. Now if you're addressing someone who's younger than you, it gets pretty simple. Man or woman, you can happily address them as Xin chào em or chào em. So em will cover both man and woman who is clearly younger than you. If someone looks like they may be a bit younger, because there's always a fair bit of guesswork involved here, which is one of the reasons Vietnamese will be very quick to ask you your age. something that foreigners find a bit off-putting when they arrive. It's pretty common for Vietnamese to ask someone their age, and one of the reasons for that is it gives people a clear idea of how to address you. But if you have any doubt, call someone anh or chị if they're looking similar age to yourself, but if they're younger, clearly younger, em is safe. We could make that more complex because children you address differently again, but I think calling children em will do while you're a traveller in Vietnam. Now, if you are talking to someone who's quite a lot older, again, we'll make it simple. There are several grades here, but we'll make it simpler, and we'll just go with chú and bác. So a man, or cô. Which one would you suggest, Queen Anh? Chú và cô. There are so many variations here, but we're trying to narrow them down to the essentials. I think probably chú và cô is the safe one for someone who's maybe 10, 20 years older than you, or even a bit older. You could call them chú for a man and cô for a woman. Now, you're probably listening to these sounds going, that's not that easy to say. Cô, cô. Chú is a bit easier, I think, for our ear, but you'll notice there's different things going on. Cô is flat, but chú is going up. And again, you'll see the markers tell you what the language is doing. With chú, there's a marker saying go up, and so you go up. Chú. Okay, so that's addressing people, and you're going to need to come back, write these down, and revisit them. If you want to have a bit of fun in Vietnam, you might like to address anyone older than you as đồng chí. Đồng chí means comrade, and of course it became a very popular term of address after 1975 when the communists took control of the whole country. So đồng chí might be, it'll probably create a fair bit of amusement if you address people as đồng chí as you travel, comrade. That's perhaps an even easier route to go down, and it'll certainly raise a laugh. Okay, we've just basically gotten through the address. Hello, sir, if you like, or hello, madam. So we haven't got very far yet, but I hope you've managed to make sense of some of that stuff so far. Okay, the next part of an address is going to be how are you? Hello, how are you? Hi, how are you? And the Vietnamese will say, chào anh có khỏe không? Or chào chị có khỏe không? Or chào em có khỏe không? Now, khỏe không literally translates in English khỏe, and you'll notice it's got a thing called a high, which means that you go around. Khỏe không. Khỏe literally means healthy. Healthy or not is the question. Không means no. So it would literally translate as healthy, no. And the way Vietnamese, and this is common to other Asian languages as well, you would answer healthy or no. Khỏe không, you would either say không, which means I'm not healthy, I'm not well, I'm not happy, or whatever, or khỏe, which means yes, I am healthy. So you may ask, anh có khỏe không? Or anh khỏe không? And the person who's healthy will reply khỏe. And the person who's not healthy, I'm breaking into Vietnamese midway through the lesson. The person who is not healthy or not happy will reply không khỏe. Okay, so khỏe không is a really important greeting as well. So you typically meet someone and say, chào anh có khỏe không? And they're going to reply, khỏe, cảm ơn, or không khỏe, or whatever. So, okay, we're making some progress here. You'll notice I just said khỏe, cảm ơn. So cảm ơn in Vietnamese is another really important word. That means thank you. And obviously that's a word you're going to use a lot as well. Cảm ơn. Really make a point of learning the word cảm ơn. In a way, if you only learn one word during your travels, make sure it's cảm ơn. The other really important expression is sorry. Xin lỗi. Xin lỗi. Xin lỗi. And you'll notice a new tone on top of that. It's called a dấu ngã. Xin lỗi. Okay, when you're in the market, you need a few words. Now, one of the other complicating issues of this language is that Northerners and Southerners speak quite differently, and they have, not only is their pronunciation different, so for example, I'm using kind of a more northern voice for these lessons. We've done the greeting, which is "Quay how," but a Southerner is really going to confuse you because they're going to go "Quay." Instead of saying "Quay how," they're going to say "Quay." And if they're from the Mekong Delta, they may even say "Quay" or "Fay." So this gets very messy. But anyway, there is a certain advantage in going with the northern sound because it is a bit more rigid. It probably, for some ears, it's a bit harsher, but it's also a bit more dependable. It's a bit more consistent. So, but you will discover that all of the things I'm teaching you are pronounced quite differently in different parts of the country. But if you go with the versions that I'm teaching you, what is a more northern voice, you'll be safe. You'll be understood everywhere. They may not love the sound of your accent, but they'll understand it. So yeah, you could get a quayakau, a quayam, or fayam. There's a lot of different ways that simple quayakau expression can be said. But anyway, back to back to the market. And of course, you need to be able to say that something is very expensive when you're in the market. And if you're in the south, you're going to say makwa, makwa, which means very expensive. If you're in the north, you're going to say datkwa, datkwa. Both of them mean the same thing. You can, if you only remember one of those, that's fine. You don't need to remember both. If you're in the north, they'll know you have learned in the south. Southerners are a bit more accustomed to listening to northern accents than northerners are listening to southern accents, for the reason that there are lots of northerners living in the south. Lots. Whereas there are very few southerners living in the north. And there are plenty of historical reasons for that. Another fun expression that should be used with a little bit of care is the Vietnamese version of bull. And since this is a family program, I won't say it, but bull, you know what I mean. So instead of saying bull in Vietnamese, you'll say sao. The Vietnamese will say sao. And it can be said in a really fun way, or it can be quite harsh. I would suggest, as a traveller, just use it with people you know or people that you're very comfortable with, and use it in fun. But it is a cute expression, sao. And you'll hear it a lot. The Vietnamese use it all the time. Okay, we're going to finish today's class with another sort of fun expression that the Vietnamese use all the time. And it's one that you should add to your vocab while you're travelling here for fun as well. It's the Vietnamese version of "oh my god," so a shock, or maybe you're going to say in the market when you see a price that you think is highly inflated, you may use it there. So, so that expression in the south is "trời ơi, trời ơi," and so you'll say in the market "trời ơi, đắt quá," or "trời ơi, mắc quá," which means, "oh my god, that's expensive." "Trời ơi, mắc quá." Now the Vietnamese use "trời ơi" all the time. As I say, it means "oh my god" literally, and you'll hear it all the time as you're travelling here as well. And it's a fun expression. "Trời ơi." You can say it about anything, but it's definitely one worth picking up. Now in the north, they say "ơi giời ơi," "ơi giời ơi." Again, choose which one, or if you want to use both, you go ahead and use both. If you're in the south, "trời ơi." If you're in the north, "ơi giời ơi, ơi giời ơi." Or pick one and use it all the way through. It'll bring you lots of fun. It's a great expression. Now in summary, if you want to narrow that down a bit, because there was some pretty complicated stuff there, particularly when we were talking about the relational stuff, addressing older people and younger people. But if you want to narrow it down to some essentials, I would suggest chào is essential, cảm ơn is essential. Now you could limit yourself to those two words and you'll certainly still find people responding very positively to you. And if you want to add the fun ones as well, ôi dồi ôi, or trời ơi, or include sao as well for good measure. enjoy the language. It's a lot of fun, and as I say, a simple vocabulary of half a dozen words will bring you a lot of fun as you travel here. See you for the next lesson.